It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tuesday, April 20th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we'll get some coronavirus updates, current news from around the world. Of course, it's Tuesday, so it is the best class ever segment from Sean Jusung McMillan, and we'll look into the book of Luke. All right, guys, how are you doing today? I hope you guys are enjoying your week. Really thankful that you guys are joining us here on the Morning Star Drive, so keep liking and commenting, and want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. All right, so we, for the Espresso with Sky channel, tonight we do have a vlog coming up, and it's another first for me. It's going to be my first unboxing. Okay, so I'm going to be unboxing something new today. It's going to be my new sidekick for the rest of my shows. So I hope you guys will really enjoy that one too. And of course, I have some insight on this this unboxing that I do. So it'd be pretty cool for that also. Also, last Sunday edition, who do we meet? We met Michael Henry Jr. from the Sumney Boys. He's over there in America. Great interview, learning about his journey into this history. Super fun, insightful. We get to a little bit more depth into the songs that he writes, and I hope you guys really enjoy it even more, so make sure to check out the Sunday edition this week. Last night, we had the Monday Zoom Bible study, and we posted that, and that will be posted on Patreon today, sometime this morning, so I know that you guys will enjoy that one too, which means let's get this show started on the road on this terrific Tuesday. So, what is happening on this Tuesday? We're going to start off with the featured artist of the day, which is all the way over there in Japan. This is Kuma-chung, and he's not only, Kuma-chung is not only doing his music, but he's also the drummer for another group called The Sky, which we hear their songs too. The song we're going to hear today is Takara. Right? Second song is going to be from Die Wings from Korea with The Way to Go. And then we'll hit the big three, like Japan, Korea, Taiwan. Renee Lai from Taiwan. This song is going to be Always Remember Us This Way from the Star is Born soundtrack. All right? So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's make sure we keep praying and making sure that God hears our prayers about all these amazing artists that we have, that they can take the message and spread it around the world through music. All right? So let's listen to our member artists.
自分の中の宝掘り出して新たな世界へ Go
してたせいそこから抜け出すための答えを与え僕たちを悟らせた前さあ前へ進んでサバイブリバイブする世界正解はそう一人一人がからしだねだね芽を出し育てたら収穫今こそ深く実践が書くどんな環境だとしても今できる最善を尽くそうさあふてくされてないで立ち上がろう俺たちのフェイス Let's go 歴史を出してこうこの未来を開いてこう自分の中の宝掘り出して新たな世界へ Go 何もしたくない日や辛い時だってあるだろうそんな時は思い出していつだって一緒だってことを Yes Yeah Opens the door 心の扉開けばほら見えてくるから K-A-R 得たから過去を映し出すバックミラー誰かが言ったそんなものはどこにもない夢に過ぎない現実見なさい OK ならもっと燃やそうぜ意志超える壁は自分自身どんな環境だとしても今できる最善を尽くそうさあ下を向いてないで立ち上がろうそれがあなたのフェイス Let's go! Step by step毎日 Everyday challenge Step by step
힘들었던 지난 날은 모두 잊어요. 그마저도 가치 있게 내디딘 걸음이었으니 아파 흘렸던 눈물보다 희망으로 기다렸던 빛나는 순간을 기억해.
그려진 기억도 짙어진 추억도 모두 다 빛나는 걸. 다 똑같아 보여도 저마다 사연이 달라. 너의 얘기를 들려줘요.
너와 나 갈 길은 극에서 끝까지 가다가 아니 갈 테면 차라리 아니 떠나만 못하리라. 노래하고 춤추고 아기자기 얘기 나누고 우리 갈 길은 비바람 스치고 눈보라친데도 This is the way to go. 이래저래 시끄럽던 모든 말들은 지금 이 순간부턴 더욱 의미 없어졌어. 그대와 나 여기 이곳에 이렇게 함께 있고 그 하나면 충분하니까.
살다 보면 빠져버려. 그러다 너도 버려. 쓸데없는 건 갖다 버려. 수실로 머릿속 청소 잘해야지 평소에 한 개 있디 한 개 더요. This is the way to go.
너와 나 갈 길은 극에서 끝까지 가다가 아니 갈 테면 차라리 아니 떠나만 못하리라. 노래하고 춤추고 아기자기 얘기 나누고 우리 갈 길은 비바람 스치고는 몰아친데도 This is the way to go. 너와 나 갈 길은 처음부터 끝까지 가다가 아니 갈 테면 차라리 아니 떠나만 못하리라. 노래하고 춤추고 아기자기 얘기 나누고 우리 갈 길은 비바람 스치고는 몰아친데도 This is the way to go.
That Arizona sky burning in your eyes. You look at me and babe, I wanna catch on fire. It's buried in my soul like California gold. You found the light in me that I couldn't find. So when I'm all choked up and I can't find the words, every time we say goodbye, baby, it hurts. When the sun goes down and the band won't play, I'll always remember us this way. Lovers in the night, let's try to ride. We don't know how to rhyme, but damn we try. But all I really know, you're where I wanna go. The part of me that you will never die. So when I'm all choked up and I can't find the words, every time we say goodbye, baby, it hurts. When the sun goes down and the band won't play, I'll always remember us this way. Oh, 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 I don't wanna be just a memory, baby. So when I'm all choked up and I can't find the words, every time we say goodbye, baby, it hurts. When the sun goes down and the band won't play, I'll always remember us this way. When you look at me and the whole world fades, I'll always remember us this way.
And there you have it. That is Renee Lai from Taiwan. Always Remember Us This Way from the Stars Born soundtrack. A great cover. Before that was Wings from Korea with their latest single, The Way to Go. And of course, the featured artist of the day is Kuma-chan from Japan with Takara. All right, so let's get into some news. What's going on around the world? We'll start off with the coronavirus updates. 141.8 million cases, 3 million deaths at 2.14% mortality rate. Top 6 countries going by daily infection rates. We have the US with 32.3 million cases, 580,000 deaths at 1.79%. India, 15 million cases, 178,000 deaths at 1.19%. Brazil, 13.9 million cases, 371,000 deaths, and once again, their mortality rate goes up to 2.68%. France, 5.2 million cases, 100,000 deaths at 1.9%. Turkey, 4.2 million cases, 35,000 deaths at 0.84%. And Iran rounds up the top 6 with 2.2 million cases, 66,000 deaths at 2.98%. And because it is Iran, I don't even trust the numbers, so it's probably way lower than it really is. Let's go to 2 countries that we always update. Number 1 is Sweden, because they didn't go into full lockdown, and they're down to 1.53%. And then Belgium used to be the highest mortality rate, over 16% at one point, is down to 2.5%. Now, let's take a look at the daily infection rates. And of course, we always want to take into consideration the infection rates is different than mortality rate. Infection is just who's getting it, how fast is it spreading. But of course, the biggest number is going to be the mortality rate and how many people are dying from it, right? So India, they just keep going up and up. They are at 260,000 cases a day, which is reaching like America's numbers in the past when they were at 285, getting close to even 300,000 in a day. But they're at 260,000. Guys. Brazil's in second with 65,000, US was 63, and Turkey was 62, and then you have France 35,000, and then Iran with 21,000. It's pretty crazy, guys, if you think about it, because Brazil, US, and Turkey are all over 60,000 cases in a day, and they still don't match up to India at 260,000. So that's pretty crazy. Let's take a look at Southeast Asia. Philippines still on top with 11,000 cases in a day. And then Indonesia with 5,000. And then Malaysia still staying over 2,000 cases, 2,300 cases in a single day. All right, so let's get into current news. And we're going to start off with India. Like, why is it getting so crazy over there in India? And in the news, it's how did India fail to prevent a deadly second wave? Okay, so in early March, India's health minister declared the country was in the end game of the pandemic, and they also lauded the Prime Minister Modi for his leadership as an example to the world in international cooperation. And then from January onwards, India began shipping doses to foreign countries as part of its much vaunted vaccine diplomacy. So this unbridled optimism that this health minister brought up was based on a sharp drop in reported infections since a peak of more than 93,000 cases per day on average in mid-September. Infections had steadily declined. By mid-February, India was counting an average of 11,000 cases a day, which is a huge, sharp decline. And the 7-day rolling average of daily deaths from the disease had slid to below 100, which is great. Now, the euphoria at beating the virus had been building since late last year, and politicians, policymakers, and parts of the media believed that India was truly out of the woods. Now, in December, the central bank officials announced that India was bending the COVID infection curve, and there was evidence, they said, in poetic terms, that the economy was breaking out amidst winter's lengthening shadows towards a place in sunlight. So Mr. Modi was called a vaccine guru. Now, at the end of February, India's election authorities announced key elections in 5 states where 186 million people were eligible to vote for 824 seats. Beginning March 27th, the polls would stretch over a month, and in the case of the state of West Bengal, they were held in 8 phases. Now, campaigning had begun in full swing with no safety protocols and social distancing in mid-March, and the cricket board allowed more than 130,000 fans, mostly unmasked, to watch 2 international cricket games between India and England. Now, in less than a month, things began to unravel. So India was in the grips of devastating second wave of the virus, and cities were facing fresh lockdowns. And by mid-April, the country was averaging more than 100,000 cases a day. Now, on Sunday, India recorded 270,000 cases and over 1,600 deaths, both new single-day records. Now, if the runaway infection was not checked, India could be recording more than 2,300 deaths every day by first week of June, according to a report by the Lancet Coronavirus Commission. Now, India is now in the grips of a public health emergency, right? So social media feeds are full with videos of COVID funerals at crowded cemeteries, wailing relatives of the dead outside hospitals, long queues of ambulances carrying gasping patients, mortuaries overflowing with the dead, and patients sometimes two to a bed. And they're in corridors and lobbies of hospitals. So there are frantic calls for help for beds, medicines, oxygen, essential drugs, and tests, and drugs are being sold on the black market. And test results are taking days. So, this one person was interviewed, and they said they didn't even know for 3 days that their child had died, right? So, this is just someone sitting outside the ICU because it's that busy. So even India's mammoth vaccination effort was now struggling. In the beginning, the rollout had been embroiled in a controversy over the efficacy over a homegrown candidate, even as the country ramped up the drive and administered more than 100 million doses by last week. Vaccine shortages were being reported. So Serum Institute of India, the country's and the world's biggest vaccine maker, said it would not be able to ramp up supplies before June because it didn't have enough money to expand capacity. India placed a temporary hold on all exports of the AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine because the doses were needed urgently at home, and allowed imports of foreign vaccines. Now, even oxygen was likely to be imported now to meet the surge in demand. Meanwhile, almost in a parallel universe, away from the death and despair, the world's richest cricket tournament was being played behind closed doors every evening, and tens of thousands of people were following their leaders to election rallies and attending the Hindu festival of Kumbh Mela. Now, it is beyond surreal what is happening, right? So experts believe the government appears to have completely dropped the ball in the second wave of infections that was about to hit India. And in mid-February, a journalist with the Indian Express newspaper flagged the 7-fold rise in new cases in parts of Maharashtra, and reported that samples from the infected had been sent for genome sequencing to look for imported variants. Now, by the end of the month, the BBC reported the surge and asked whether India was facing a new COVID wave. And they said they don't really know what the cause of the surge is. And what is worrying is that the entire families are getting infected. And this is completely a new trend. Okay, this is a civil surgeon of the affected district in Maharashtra was saying at that time. So experts now say that crowing about India's exceptionalism in beating the epidemic younger population, native immunity, a largely rural population, and declaring victory on the virus turned out to be cruelly premature. As is typical in India, official arrogance, hypernationalism, populism, and an ample dose of bureaucratic incompetence have combined to create a crisis, right? There's a columnist from the Bloomberg. So India's second wave was fueled by people letting their guard down, attending weddings and social gatherings, and by mixed messaging from the government, allowing political rallies and religious gatherings. With infections declining, fewer people were taking the jabs, slowing down the vaccine drive, which had aimed to inoculate 250 million people by the end of July. And in mid-February, a biostatistician at the University of Michigan tweeted that India needed to accelerate the vaccination drive while the case counts are low, but nobody took notice, right? So it's this feeling of triumphalism, right? And they feel that the feeling was that they had herd immunity. Everyone wanted to get back to work, and the narrative fell on many receptive ears, and the few voices of caution were not heeded to. So the second wave was more inevitable. But India could have postponed or delayed it and lessened its impact. Right? Like many other countries, India should have begun careful genomic surveillance in January to detect variants. And some of these variants could be driving the surge, and they learned of new variants in February from reports from Maharashtra. And this was initially denied by authorities. So this is a super significant turning point. And the lessons of this public health crisis is, for one, India should learn not to declare victory over the virus prematurely, right? And other countries shouldn't do that too, right? And they basically should have put a lid on this triumphalism. People should also learn to adapt to short local lockdowns in the event of the inevitable future spikes of infections. And most epidemiologists predict more waves, given that India is evidently still far away from reaching herd immunity and its vaccination rate remains very slow. So, this is what's happening over there, and it's kind of like, what's that word when you declare victory prematurely? I'm not sure what that's called. Right? Or is that premature victory? Yeah, so that's why things are going crazy in India right now. 260,000 cases in a single day, which is nuts. And that's yesterday, right? So, and Sunday was 260, so it's just constantly going up and up. Second thing is we're going to go into Russia. And the U.S. basically told Russia that they will face consequences if the opposition leader Navalny dies. So the U.S. has warned Russia there will be consequences if the opposition activist Alexei Navalny dies in jail. And the UK, France, Germany, and the European Union have also expressed their concern over his treatment. So Navalny's doctors say he will die within the next few days if not given urgent medical attention for acute back pain and leg numbness. Russia's ambassador to the UK has said that Navalny is attention-seeking and will not be allowed to die in prison. A prominent critic of Vladimir Putin, Navalny was jailed in February for old embezzlement. Right? These are old embezzlement charges, which he claims are politically motivated. So he started a hunger strike on March 31st in protest at not being able to see his own medical team, and his doctors say recent blood test results indicate he could suffer kidney failure and go into cardiac arrest at any moment. Now, on Sunday, a number of countries joined the international protest against Navalny's treatment inside the Russian jail in the town of Pokrov, and it's about 100 kilometers east of Moscow. Right? So the U.S. National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, told CNN there would be consequences if Mr. Navalny dies, and Russia would be held accountable by the international community, while President Joe Biden said his medical treatment was totally unfair and totally inappropriate. So the U.S. is already embroiled in a diplomatic row with Russia over the near-fatal poisoning of Navalny last year with the chemical warfare agent Novichok. Now, the Kremlin denies Navalny's claims that President Putin ordered the attack, but U.S. intelligence officials concluded that the Moscow government was behind the poisoning, prompting the Biden administration to impose sanctions on senior Russian officials. Now, Moscow is imposing its own measures in retaliation. EU leaders are expected to discuss the situation on Monday, and Joseph Borrell, the bloc's top diplomat, said the EU was deeply concerned and called for prison authorities to grant access to Navalny's medical team immediately. The UK's Foreign Office said in a statement that Navalny must be given immediate access to independent medical care, right? And this is, basically all these big countries are going against it. So even if you look at his supporters in Russia, they're organizing a nationwide protest on Wednesday, saying there are circumstances in which you need to act quickly, otherwise there will be something irreparable will happen, right? So that's why on Friday last week, 4 doctors wrote to prison officials to request permission to see Navalny urgently, saying his potassium had reached critical levels. So we'll see what's going to happen, but his personal physician was arrested for protesting outside Navalny's jail, tweeted that she and the 3 doctors had stood for 2 hours and begged to be led into the jail, but they were refused entry. Also joining the call for action are more than 70 well-known writers, artists, and academics who have signed a letter calling on Putin to ensure Navalny receives adequate medical care. Last but not least, good news. Australia opens a travel bubble with New Zealand. How great is this? Australia and New Zealand residents can travel freely between the two countries for the first time in more than a year after a travel bubble opened on Monday. The long-awaited initiative removes the need for visitors to quarantine. So both countries have contained COVID outbreaks and kept infection rates low, in large part due to hard borders. So excited passengers crowded Australian airports ahead of reunions with family and friends, and thousands of people are expected to travel on Monday, with some rising before dawn to get ready to board. Now, people didn't realize how emotional it was going to be, but passengers at the Sydney airport were very emotional. So Qantas, Jetstar, Air New Zealand will all fly routes between the two countries. Australia and New Zealand shut their borders in March last year and brought it compulsory quarantine for returning nationals. But since October, New Zealand travelers have been allowed to enter most Australian states without quarantine, though this had not been reciprocated amid concerns about sporadic COVID outbreaks. So the international departure terminal at Sydney Airport was very busy, very early in the day, and the queue in front of the check-in desk was long and spiraling, and many parents tried to entertain exhausted toddlers who had to wake up exceptionally early to catch the first flight from Sydney to Auckland on day 1. So this is great news, guys. First airline bubble. I hope more of these are to come. And it's such a privilege. The very first bubble is between Australia and New Zealand, and to be able to travel without any quarantines. So the huge economic boost. The bubble is expected to deliver a lift to both economies, and the Prime Minister of both Australia and New Zealand, they said in a joint statement, and they're very, very excited about this. So this is great news for not just Australia and New Zealand, but for the entire world. All right, guys, now that the worldly news is all finished, let's get into some spiritual time, right? Some spiritual time. So we're going to have some new songs up that have been recorded on the what was it, the Pravi Music YouTube channel. We're gonna start off with Level Up, then we'll go into Hero, and then we'll finish off with an oldie that's been re-recorded, is I Love the Lord. So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let us spend this time giving glory to the Holy Trinity.
Body, spirit, make them new in a new way.
Level up, yeah. Let's go with the things of old. Keep raising up a level more. Today we're different, it's a better day. Now let's fly into a new birds.
We are different than before. We are living in the new history. We are different from the world. We're totally high class, but we can't end it here. We must go higher. Here with the Lord we'll fulfill greater history. With honey method we'll pave a new way.
Do it in a new way.
Don't forget that we will shine so brilliant and true. We're the owners of history, the ones who will rise, fly higher and higher each day. I wanna be the change, and in a brand new way. Level up, this is my chance. I can do it in new ways, in new ways. Body, spirit, make them new in a new way.
It's a new chance for a new change. Take the chance to write a new historical page. I'm marching perfectly forward today, cause the word it is a source of power, it's my battery. Level up, go to another level, though. A higher class, level only we can go. You and I, every person running with the Lord forever.
I wanna be the change, and in a brand new way. Level up, this is my
anyways, Bluebird.
Body, spirit, make them new in a new way. Body, spirit, make them new in a new way.
Make yourself new.
Since for now I'm still too young, I can't do it alone. The Lord's word is the best, it's perfect, but still the world won't acknowledge Him. Though I live in this cool world is too cold for me. Am I different or am I strange? What's special about my life? I can hear a voice that's calling from somewhere. We can change ourselves again. I'm set on fire, my body surges with power. Don't forget this day. I can be the hero. You can be the hero, yeah. We can be the hero. And as one, we'll turn the world upside down. I can be the hero. You can be the hero, yeah. We can be the hero. You and me, we are the owners of history.
I've had it. I've been told I'm not enough so many times my ears bleed. We know we can get it up, you see what we are saying. Friends, worldly things, those are not even problems for us. Satan is not a problem, we can knock him out for sure. We are growing every day. We are becoming the Lord's army. Only the Lord, how can we say it's hard and it will work out? With the Lord, we'll move ahead and always go forward.
This world's full of signs, but no destination. This chaotic world just confuses me. Their words won't remain, they will melt like stone. And then the truth will be revealed at last. I can hear a voice that's calling from somewhere. We can change ourselves again. I'm set on fire, my body surges with power. Don't forget this day. I can be the realize the truth. What's the best way to be closer to the Lord? I can see myself when I am praying deeply. I can hear my spirit as it's crying out. And the earnest call I hear opens a window to my heart. Now I've heard that cry, I've come to realize how I love the Lord, truly love the Lord. My body, soul, and spirit truly love the Lord. And the more that I confess, the closer I become. I can see my spirit drawing close to Him. How I love the Lord, truly love the Lord. My body, soul, and spirit truly love the Lord. I want to shout out loud, proclaiming endlessly. Now there's only one way, it's the path of love. How I love the Lord. I am listening for the voice of my own spirit as I try to figure out just what I want. Through my spirit and my soul, I want to realize the truth. What's the best way to be closer to the Lord? I can see myself when I am praying deeply. I can hear my spirit as it's crying out. And the earnest call I hear opens a window to my heart. Now I've heard that cry, I've come to realize how I love the Lord, truly love the Lord. My body, soul, and spirit truly love the Lord. And the more that I confess, the closer I become. I can see my spirit drawing close to Him. How I love the Lord, truly love the Lord. My body, soul, and spirit truly love the Lord. I want to shout out loud, proclaiming endlessly. Now there's only one way, it's the path of love. How I love the Lord, truly love the Lord. My body, soul, and spirit truly love the Lord. And the more that I confess, the closer I become. I can see my spirit drawing close to Him. How I love the Lord, truly love the Lord. My body, soul, and spirit truly love the Lord. I want to shout out loud, proclaiming endlessly. Now there's only one way, it's the path of love. How I love the Lord, whoa, whoa, oh yeah, yeah. How I love the Lord, whoa, whoa, oh yeah, yeah.
And there you go. That is I Love the Lord. Before that, Hero and Level Up. Hope you guys really enjoyed that time. Some new songs we're playing here. Hopefully we'll get more and more recorded songs. Really grateful to the English Provi song team. I hope that the IETT, as they're working really hard, more and more of these songs are coming out. Super grateful and thankful. And I'm sure the hardest part for sure, by far, is getting the translation. And that, that is just... in itself, that is just hard in itself to get the proper translation. All right, so let's get into today's word study for today. What is going on today? Right, today is Tuesday, so we have a word study, which has to do with the scriptures for this week's message. And we're going to go into the Gospel of Luke. All right, the Gospel of Luke. This is today's scripture. This week's scripture has two of them. I believe it's, Luke chapter 18 and 15. And let's take one is where the children are blocked from coming to Jesus, and the second one is the story of what was the second one? Oh, the prodigal son, right? So let's take a look at this, the book of Luke. Now, the Gospel of Luke was written to give more of a reliable and a precise historical record of the life of Jesus. Okay, so Luke, basically like a historian, he spelled it out. His purpose for writing the first 4 verses of chapter 1, it was all spelled out in those first 4 verses. He's not just a historian, he's a medical doctor, and he paid such great attention to detail, including dates and events that happened throughout the life of Christ. Now, a theme that is absolutely emphasized in the Gospel of Luke is the humanity of Jesus and his perfection as a human. So Jesus was the perfect man who gave the perfect sacrifice for sin and therefore providing the perfect savior for humankind, right? So obviously we know that Luke wrote this gospel, self-titled. He's the author of this gospel, and he is a Greek and the only Gentile Christian writer of the New Testament, which is quite interesting, right? He's a Gentile. The language of Luke reveals that he is an educated man, and his writing style is more polished and classical than that of Matthew and Mark. So we also learn in Colossians chapter 4, verse 14, that Paul calls him a physician. So in this book, Luke refers many times to sicknesses and diagnoses, and being a Greek and a doctor would explain his scientific and orderly approach to the book. Now, he gives great attention to detail in his accounts, and what we know about Luke is he was a very faithful friend and travel companion of Paul, and it is often supposed that he wrote his gospel under Paul's direction, and Luke wrote the book of Acts as a sequel to the Gospel of Luke. So some discredit Luke's gospel because he was not one of the 12 disciples. However, Luke had access to historical records, and he carefully researched and interviewed the disciples and others who were eyewitnesses to the life of Christ. So we're looking at, he wrote this book, or this book was written about 30 years after Jesus died. Around 30 years after, right? So like 60 AD. And originally the Gospel of Luke was written to someone named Theophilus, right? And basically the meaning of Theophilus is the one who loves God. And historians are not really sure who this guy is, right? He's mentioned in both Luke and the Gospel of Luke and the book of Acts. But the guess is he was a Roman with an intense interest in the newly forming Christian religion. And Luke may also have been writing in general to those who loved God. Not sure, right? So the book is written to the Gentiles as well and all people everywhere. So what's the landscape of this book? Luke wrote the gospel in Rome or possibly in Caesarea, and settings in the book include like Bethlehem, Jerusalem, Judea, and Galilee. And the themes in this gospel, the predominant theme in the book of Luke is the perfect humanity of Jesus Christ, right? That's like the predominant theme. And the Savior entered human history as the perfect man, and then he offered himself as a perfect sacrifice for sin, and that's why he was providing the perfect Savior for humankind, right? So that's kind of like the underlying theme throughout the entire book. And Luke is super careful to give detailed and accurate records of his investigation so that readers can trust with certainty that Jesus is God. And Luke also portrays Jesus' profound interest in people and relationships, and his compassion to the poor, the sick, the hurting, and the sinful, and that Jesus loved and embraced everyone. And Luke also talks about God becoming flesh to identify with us and to show us his genuine love. And only this type of perfect love can satisfy the deepest need. So Luke's gospel gives like special emphasis to prayer, miracles, angels as well. And interesting to note, women are given an important place in Luke's writings, which is very interesting, right? So if you look at the outline of the book of Luke, of course, you have Luke chapter 1 to Luke chapter 4 is like the birth and preparation of Jesus. And then the message and ministry of Jesus is Luke chapter 4 to chapter 21. And then the death and the resurrection is chapters 22 to 24. So that is an interesting look into the study of the book of Luke. I hope you guys really enjoyed. And Luke has the most detailed account of of Jesus' birth and John the Baptist's birth. And that's why we use this book a lot for this. And a lot of things in there that you may not see in the other two books too. All right. So that is the word study for the book of Luke today. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. And this will lead us into the song of choice for today. And it's a song I played maybe half a year ago, and this is from my favorite Filipino artist. His name is Daryl Ong, and this is a duet for the song Almost Is Never Enough, and this cover is done by Daryl Ong and also by Chloe Redondo. Great version of this. I love it, so I hope you guys will enjoy it. This is Almost Is Never Enough by Daryl Ong and Chloe Redondo.
We gave it a try. I like to blame it all on life. Maybe we just weren't right, but that's a lie. That's a lie. And we can deny it as much as we want, but in time our feelings will show. 'Cause sooner or later we'll wonder why we gave up. The truth is everyone knows. Almost is never enough. So close to being in love. If I would have known that you wanted me the way you wanted you, then maybe we wouldn't be two worlds apart. But right here in each other's arms, and we almost knew what love was. But almost is never enough.
If I could change the world overnight, there'd be no such thing as goodbye. And you'd be standing right where you were, and we get the chance we deserve. We try to deny it as much as we want, but in time our feelings will show. 'Cause sooner or later we wonder why we gave up. The truth is
Almost is never enough. It's never enough.
we're close to being in love. I would've known that you wanted me the way I wanted you. Maybe we wouldn't be two worlds apart, but right here in each other's arms.
And we almost knew what love was. But almost is never enough.
And there it is. That is Daryl Ong and Chloe Redondo with the cover Almost Is Never Enough. Great cover. I love it. I don't know what it is. The Filipinos have amazing singers all around the world. Oh my gosh. If you guys listen to some of the other Filipino singers, they're so good. So yes, Daryl Ong, Chloe Redondo, thank you so much for making that cover of that song. All right, that brings us into a time that all of us really look forward to every Tuesday. And once again, it is Sean Jusung McMillan from Texas. And he is also, we're going to see the segment of, we're not going to see, we're going to hear the segment of The Best Class Ever.
In the last lesson, we began to explain the big 5 personality traits, the core differences between people's temperaments that emerge statistically when analyzing a large number of people. Now, if you missed last week's lesson, be sure to visit our website at www.bestclassever.org so that you don't miss out on the critical lessons to be learned about creativity, IQ, and conscientiousness. They are by far the biggest indicators of success by today's standards. But today we will look at extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, which are also critical. My name is Sean Jongju Song McMillan, and this is the best class ever. The acronym we use for the Big Five is OCEAN, O-C-E-A-N. We already discussed O, which stands for openness and divides up into creativity and intelligence. We also discussed C, which stands for conscientiousness, which divides up into orderliness and industriousness. Now let's look at E, which stands for extroversion. Now this one is the easiest to explain because it is by far the most familiar. The Myers-Briggs personality test also includes extroversion, so anyone who has previously taken interest in personality types would know that extroverts get energy by being around other people, and introverts find it exhausting to be around people and gain energy by spending time alone. Extroversion divides up into assertiveness and exuberance. Before, we didn't really discuss the differences between men and women, because when the sample size is large enough, we don't find that there's any measurable difference between men and women on average in terms of intelligence or conscientiousness. But on average, women do tend to score lower on assertiveness. There's no surprise here. Men are generally perceived as more aggressive, and women who make it a habit to assert themselves or assume authoritative positions are often labeled a derogatory term comparing them to a female dog. Again, I must explain that to score high or low is not better or worse. It's just different. But there are cultural perceptions and biases that may or may not be very rational. For instance, we tend to see those who are assertive, outspoken, enthusiastic, and optimistic as good leaders. We also have a bias towards seeing tall people as leaders, perhaps because we literally have to look up to them. But there is absolutely no correlation between height and leadership ability. In the same way, it's not better or worse to score high or low on any of these personality types. Extroverts love to have you around. They may not even necessarily like anything about you specifically, but they love an audience. And society loves them too. Our attention naturally goes towards those who are assertive, outspoken, and enthusiastic. So those who do not speak up for themselves can easily be dismissed. For this reason, I believe it's a good idea to keep an eye out for those whose value often goes unappreciated. So when you see an introvert, know that they may have just as much skill as someone who openly brags about themselves. Next, we can speak about the A in OCEAN, agreeableness. Technically speaking, agreeableness is our sensitivity to positive response. It divides up into politeness and compassion. On average, women do tend to score much higher in agreeableness. These are the characteristics that we need to raise children well. A person who scores low in agreeableness would be considered disagreeable. We can all think of someone who is extremely disagreeable. That guy who always speaks his mind no matter how rude and without regard for how it will make people feel. Those who are high in agreeableness cringe at the insensitivity of such people. But we need both agreeable people who help everyone to live in harmony and disagreeable people who are willing to say the difficult things that need to be said. As they say, sometimes pessimists are the ultimate optimists. They point out the negative because they believe things can be better. It's important to know your natural temperament so that you don't fall prey to others in certain situations. For instance, if you need to negotiate with your employer over what your salary should be, being agreeable, polite, compassionate, and failing to be assertive will certainly put you at an unfair advantage when dealing with an assertive, disagreeable person. So even though it may be temporarily uncomfortable, there are times when you need to act against your natural temperament. The last letter in our acronym, OCEAN, is N, which stands for neuroticism. Neuroticism, technically speaking, is our sensitivity to negative response. It divides up into volatility and withdrawal. We can think of neuroticism as nervousness or obsessing over issues. People high in neuroticism worry about the future. They worry. To be honest, I am not sure what to say about neuroticism because I myself score so extremely low in neuroticism that I fear I don't understand these people at all. People who score high in neuroticism are often encouraged to choose a career path that will provide a lot of security. Being an artist or an entrepreneur means your income could vary wildly from month to month, and who knows what the next year will bring. Leaders often have to deal with uncertain, ambiguous problems presented by an unknown future. In volatile situations, people may begin to panic or make irrational decisions out of fear. For those who are especially neurotic, being in volatile situations like this is especially undesirable. People low in neuroticism, on the other hand, don't panic. They don't worry that much, and they don't obsess over uncertainty. Think about how people react when disaster strikes. Many people worry, panic, or act irrationally. But there are those who live for the excitement of chaotic situations, those who can keep their cool and immediately engage in solving the new problems. Your natural response can tell you a lot about your natural temperament. Now, personalities do change over time, but our natural tendencies tend to be ingrained in us from an early age. We can act against those tendencies, but it's important to choose career paths that allow us to work comfortably over time and take advantage of our strengths. If you are high in openness and are especially creative, then it's important to make time for pursuing your interests. If you're not high in conscientiousness, then you might not like to stick to a schedule or follow instructions, but you must acknowledge how difficult that will make it for those who trust you to be responsible for the work and lives that your spontaneity affects. If you are extremely extroverted, outgoing, spending a lot of time with people, but low in agreeableness, please know that people will not want to be around you if they feel you are just using them or don't genuinely care for them as an individual. If you are introverted, but high in agreeableness, then the relationships you build might become extremely important to your life. If you are not meeting many people, but want someone to care for, then your family, your significant other, and your children will become critical to your life. But you might need to go out of your way to meet more people or become part of a community if you end up relying too heavily on those close to you. If you are high in neuroticism, try to find a career that will provide future security. Save money and put it aside for emergencies so that you will not panic or obsess when calamity inevitably strikes. Each of us has our own unique approach to doing things. We each have our different personalities. There are insights that a team or a group of people can learn from your unique approach, but it's important to recognize that many strengths also come with an opposite weakness. Working with those who have the opposite approach from you can help make up the difference, or keep our individual weaknesses from becoming the group's weaknesses. So before you judge others for being different, remember that to be successful, it takes all types. To listen to last week's lesson if you missed it, to read the notes from today's lesson, or to see the pertaining charts, feel free to visit me at bestclassever.org.
And there you have it. That is Sean Jusung McMillan with another awesome episode of The Best Class Ever. That's the second part to the Big 5 personalities. Hope you guys will go out and get those 5 personalities checked out, and they are fully researched. All right, guys, what does that mean? That is the end of today's podcast. Hope you guys had an amazing time here on the Morning Star Drive. Have an awesome Tuesday. Do everything well. Make sure we take care of those SS, take care of those Milky Ways, take care of those new members really well. Take care of each other as much as we can and not block, scold, or rebuke them, but treat them very nice. All right, guys, have an amazing Tuesday, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly, so let's realign. Just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this.